former Card goes to first base. Jack Clark then throws it away at home, allowing 2 runs to score. The Braves had cut into the lead at 3-2 and looked like they might rally for yet another win. But John Tudor was back on his game on this night. He went 7 1/3 and shut down the Braves, striking out 5, including Glenn Hubbard on pitches on the black like that. Todd Worrell then picked up Tudor for the save, and St. Louis wins 3-2 to snap the Braves' 7-game losing streak. And with that win, St. Louis jumps into 4th place in the National League West. A couple of games going out on the coast right now. Montreal jumped on top of San Francisco when Hubie Brooks hit his 11th home run of the year. And then the Giants have now tied it. It is 2-2 as they go to the second and Candlestick. And the Mets reeling once again. This time Sid Fernandez on the hill. Steve Garvey and Greg Nettles have hit home runs as San Diego has jumped to an early 4-1 lead.
Two teams on opposite ends of the totem pole tangled in Wrigley Field this afternoon. For Houston, a series of firsts. Their position in the standings, their first trip to Chicago, and Julio Solano's first start. He has relieved quite frequently for the Astros, but the 3-man rotation turned to 4 and not with great success. Leon Durham with 2 men on for the Cubs in the 4th, gets the big hit of the game, drives in both, later scored on a Ron-Say single. The Cubs are up 3-1. Meanwhile, Rick Sutcliffe, who has missed his turn and is battling a bout with some bad mayonnaise, got back on the mound and pitched well and got some great defense behind him. Sean Dunston, who is turning in sparkling plays with regularity, got it out there. And then in the 9th, with a couple down, Mark Bailey grounds to Durham, who flips to Dunston for the final out. And what a rare sight this is. The Cubs starting pitcher still on the mound when the game ended. Sutcliffe's second complete game, only the 3rd for the entire Cubs staff. A 4-1 victory snaps their losing streak and gives the Cubs a shot in the arm from a pitcher who has been holding his stomach lately. Philadelphia at Dodger Stadium, the Phils trying to snap a 5-game losing streak. It is Shane Rawley against Jerry Royce. They are scoreless in the 4th. And what a game going on at Three Rivers Stadium. Tied at 9 in the 11th inning. 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th for the Pirates, including 1 that got on by catcher's interference. And they're still playing.
So some interesting games going on in the National League. With CNN Sports Tonight continues, we'll have the American League. Interesting goings on there as well. The Yanks are coming, and home is where they were headed.
Also ahead, baseball's spring syndrome continues. The affliction involves divisional winners. What happens to winners to make them so wimpy the following year? We'll ask them.
In base, and G. Mock protested and really hurt him because the very next batter was Don Mattingly, and he uncorked a 3-run home run that scored them all. The Yankees then got a little bit of a tangled problem when a wild pitch allowed this run to score. Gary Pettis never stopped running from second base, and they cut New York's lead to 7-4. But New York had 2 home runs from Mike Pagliarulo. This the second. Both solo home runs from Pags. Yankees blow out 10 runs and blow away California 10-5. Yankees really on the heels of the Boston Red Sox in the AL East. Oakland has beaten Detroit. The A's within a half game of first place in the American League West. And Chicago and Kansas City tonight. The White Sox haven't played many games against the American League West. They've been playing all Eastern teams. And Tony Lewis sort of eyeing the Royals. And what happens here is that the White Sox jumped out early when Bobby Bonilla doubled into the gap in right center field. Greg Walker, who had 4 hits on the night, scored. White Sox up early. 1 out later, Ozzie Guillen will then pull one inside the bag at first. Just inside. Carlton Fisk on base scores, so does Barry Bonilla, and it's all of a sudden 3-0 Chicago. That was Joe Cowley on the hill who got was the recipient of those 3 runs, pitching in the 8th inning here to get Darryl Motley. Cowley, a brilliant performance. Chicago takes out Kansas City 4-1. White Sox on a roll have won 8 of their last 9 games.
At Texas, the Rangers hosted the surging Red Sox. What made this meeting of contenders more interesting, it was Oil Can Boyd's first appearance against the hosts since beating Don Slaught in the face on Saturday. And the Rangers remembered. There's Boyd in the dugout looking on as Edwin Correa hits his catcher, or at least brushes him back. And that got Boyd incensed, got a warning to John McNamara and Boyd to keep the balls over the plate, not inside. Well, Don Baylor tees off on Edwin Correa in a scoreless game. Top of the 4th, a 2-run shot, his 7th home run of the year, and it's suddenly Red Sox 2-0. Top of the 9th, Red Sox leading 2-1, and Correa beans Ray Quinones on the helmet. His second hit batsman of the game. He got thrown out. Boyd got into it with a fan, and for his own behalf, John McNamara took Boyd out of the game and then went to Bob Stanley in relief, who strikes out Gary Ward looking with 2 on in the bottom of the 9th. What a pitcher's duel deluxe at Arlington. The Red Sox come out of it with their 6th win in a row. Boyd retired the first 13 batters he faced, and that is their 25th win for the Red Sox against a Western Division team. Scoreless game in the Kingdome. They go to the fourth. It's Ken Dixon against the hosts, Mike Morgan. What a night at Municipal Stadium in Cleveland. Citizens Night, and 61,000 plus turned out for it. The largest crowd this season to see a Major League game, and what they got was a pitcher's duel in which Don Schulze won with a two-hitter, and they won their third straight game, did the Indians, against the slumping Blue Jays. Another great game going to extra innings, probably, at the Metrodome. 7-7 in the ninth, a two-run homer by Ben Ogilvy, his second of the game, tied it for the Brewers. There have been 7 home runs in that game. Despite both being upset in the postseason by Kansas City, Toronto and St. Louis teams during the 1985 regular season, while the Royals are traditionally slow starters and the Dodgers can point to the loss of Pedro Guerrero for their inconsistency, both birds have had their wings severely clipped. It's the same thing that happened to the Tigers, Padres, and Cubs the year before, and seems to be turning into a tradition. What to do for an encore?
Well, one thing about it, 2 years I was in New York when we won a back-to-back World Series. It was much harder to win it the second year than it was the first.
Toronto's Cliff Johnson should know. Since his Yankees were joined by the Dodgers, Phillies, and Royals as all divisional champs repeated in 1978, only one other team has made an encore of its postseason performance. That was last year's Royals, which, like every other division winner of '85, is struggling through this spring.
I don't think there's real cause of concern or alarm on the ball club. We would like to be 6 or 7 games over 500 right now, but we're not. But we know what we went through last year, and we feel we can do it again if it comes down to it.
Like the Royals, the Dodgers dug an early hole. But as a perennial power in the West, they're used to seeing opponents' best.
It seems that every club wants to beat the Dodgers, and I think it's because we're an outstanding organization, and we're usually on top every year. We're just a team to beat.
While L.A. and Kansas City comebacks are commonplace, Toronto and the Cardinals are getting their comeuppance. For Whitey Herzog's team, a long stay in last has been forged by less than saintly slugging. The averages of the worst-hitting team in baseball have gotten so embarrassing, Herzog has ordered the scoreboard not to update them during games at Busch Stadium.
There's just nobody hitting the ball. Ozzie Smith's been holding his own. Jack Clark's done what we expected him to do, but nobody else around here. The other 6 or 7 guys that we planned on getting the job done offensively just haven't done it. And I don't mean Craig just being off 20, 30 points. A lot of them are off 100 points. And 3 runs a game, I think in 20 and 30 ball games, we've got 3 runs or less 20 times. And we don't have the type of ball club or the type of pitching that's going to get it done that way.
The flip side of St. Louis is Toronto. A year ago, they led the American League in pitching. This season, they're allowing more than 5 runs a game. New manager Jimmy Williams is in a no-win situation. Anything short of first is failure.
Maybe to a certain degree you're right. I don't know, but I don't look at it like that. Maybe I look at it as a challenge to be a part of a club that, the only club in the American League East anyway, that has a chance to repeat, and nobody's repeated in several years. Right at this time, we're not looking too good because our shoulders are real strong. We're holding up the rest of the league, but there's certainly a long ways to go.
How serious is St. Louis's shortage on offense? A year ago, they led the National League in batting and runs scored. This year, they're dead last in both and have hit fewer home runs as a team than Kirby Puckett. Toronto's pitching problems point most prominently at Dave Stieb. Their ace and reigning American League ERA champ is winless in 6 decisions, hasn't completed a game, and he's given up a dozen home runs.
But wait a minute, he is not out. Watch the replay. The error goes to Bobby Grich for obstruction of the base path and the runner. All runners are safe. Manager Gene Mauch protested the game for the Angels. After a long argument, the next hitter is Don Mattingly. And watch Don Sutton groove one to Mattingly, who jumps all over this one and sends it into the seats in right. The 3-run shot puts the Yankees on top 3-0. Bottom of the second, Mike Pagliarulo leads off against Sutton, much the way Don Mattingly did against him. George Hendrick watches it sail away. First of 2 homers on the night for Pagliarulo, and it's 4-0 New York.
With 1 out in the second, Ricky Henderson with a drive deep to left field. Brian Downing will not catch up with it. It is off the wall, bounces back to him. Henderson pulls in at second base with 2 bases. And here's the Randolph-Henderson connection again. Randolph with a base hit into right center field. Henderson comes around with the 5th Yankee run. It was 7-0 after 2. Meanwhile, the troubled Ed Whitson came on and did a fine job in relief. He gets Bobby Grich there for his 6th strike. California, a loser at New York tonight. The final, the Yankees 10 and California 5. But the Yankees will not gain on the division-leading Red Sox. The Red Sox and the Rangers in Arlington, top of the 4th. Don Baylor rips one deep to left off Ed Correa and over the wall with a teammate aboard. His 7th home run of the year makes it 2-0 Red Sox. Oil Can Boyd, meanwhile, cruising. Boyd gets Pete Incaviria on strike. He retired the first 13 Rangers he faced. But in the 5th inning, George Wright at the plate. Base hit into right field. White Evans will come up throwing. Gary Ward around third to the plate. And the throw arrives just a smidge too late. It's 2-1. Top of the 9th inning. Correa gets Ray Quinones and hits him in the back of the head. Second man hit by Correa, Ken Kaiser. Then Thompson walks out and ejects Mr. Correa from the game. And Bobby Valentine, after arguing the call, Valentine gets the boot. Nick Williams relieved, and Williams gets Wade Boggs to end the inning on strike. Now, the Rangers threatened in the 9th inning, but Bob Stanley came on to get both men he faced, including Gary Ward, looking at strike 3 on the corner at the knee. And the Red Sox win it to maintain their game-and-a-half lead over the Yankees in the American League East. Boston 2 and Texas 1. The Oil Can wins his 5th of the year. Correa, the loser, his 3rd of the year is lost. And Bob Stanley saves his 7th.
At Tiger Stadium tonight, the Detroit Tigers had a shot at reaching the 500 mark, but they ran into a couple of Jose's from the Oakland A's who had different plans in that ball game. Top of the 1st inning, runners on 1st and 2nd. Gave him a point. Is the man on the mound. No outs in the game at this point. Jose number 1, Canseco. He grounds to left. Tony Phillips hustles around the bases, hits 3rd, keeps on going. He scores. It was 1-0 A's. Canseco's 40th RBI. Next batter was Dave Kingman. He rips one to left field. Now Donnie Hill is on his horse from 2nd. He's going to come around, motor in to score. It was 2-0 A's. Bottom of the 1st now, 1 on. Here's the other Jose. That's Rijo on the mound. Having some trouble here. He walks Lance Parrish. And then Darrell Evans. Well, he's on base, and the young guy on the mound knows he's got trouble. He's got the bases loaded, but no problem, man. Darnell Coles is the batter. 0-2 pitch. He's out of there. Oakland leads 3-0 after 1 in that ball game. But in the 5th, in the bottom, Lou Whitaker on 3rd. Johnny Grubb bounces this one to Donnie Hill for the easy 4-3, but the run scores. It was 3-1 Oakland. We'll go on to the top of the 6th, and the A's get it back. Mike Davis drills it to center field. Carney Lansford comes all the way around to score from 2nd. 4-1 A's at that point. They go on to win it 5-1. Jose Rijo gets the win. He's 2-2. His first complete game of his major league career. Detroit is now 18-20. They are in 6th place in the American League East. Now, in Kansas City tonight, it was a battle for 4th place in the American League West. Top of the 2nd, Bobby Bonilla drives one to the gap in right center off of Brett Saberhagen. Greg Walker comes around to score. 1-0 White Sox. 1 out later, Ozzie Guillen rips one down the first baseline, and Carlton Fisk gets his milk cart in gear. He scores. Bonilla scores. It was 3-0 Chicago. Bottom of the 2nd, Angel Salazar strikes a single to left off Joe Cowley. Jamie Quirk comes around to score as Bonilla bobbles the ball. It was 3-1. Cowley settled down, just came up with the minor leagues this week, and he strikes out George Brett in the 5th. Not a bad thing to do. Top of the 8th, Royals get some insurance. Wayne Collison delivers. 2-out singles. Steve Barr, Tim Hewlett score, and the Cy Sox win it 4-1. So it was Chicago getting the insurance right there. Cowley goes 7 1/3 innings and gives up just 3 hits. Greg Walker went 4 for 4 tonight as Chicago wins that game. So they are now in 4th place in the West in front of Kansas City. Toronto and Cleveland tonight, they had 61,340 fans in Cleveland tonight. It was Citizens night, and Cleveland came through with a 3-1 victory. Julio Franco had a triple and 2 RBIs. Don Schulze picks up the win on a 2-hitter. Now, at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, it is now a final. The Twins have finally won their 15th game of the year. They do it late. They come back and win it 8-7. Ben Ogilvie had 2 home runs for Milwaukee in that game. 7 home runs in all going into the 9th inning in that game, and the Twins come up with the victory. And one other game tonight, Baltimore and Seattle, scoreless in the 5th inning.
That will run us through the American League. We'll check out the senior circuit complete with scores and highlights when we return.
Astros off to a quick start. Cubs, though, rallied in the 4th inning. Leon Durham, rip time right down the first baseline. It goes past Glenn Davis. Bob Dernier scores. So does Davey Lopes. And it was 2-1 Cubs. Next batter, Ron Cey, rip time down the left field line off Julio Solano, and Durham scores easily. The crowd loves it. It was 3-1 Cubs. Bottom of the 5th, Sean Dunston on 2nd. There's Lopes on 1st. Ryan Sandberg, rip time, a single right through the middle. Larry Anderson couldn't get a hold of it. Dunston scores, and it was 4-1 Cubs. Sutcliffe settled down, looking for only his 2nd win against 6 losses. And he does it pretty well here with a strikeout 1 of 7 as he gets Kevin Bass right there. The Cubs win it 4-1. Sutcliffe gets only his 2nd win. It is his 2nd complete game of the year, only the 3rd complete game for the Cubs pitching staff this year. One other game tonight, Montreal at San Francisco. It's all tied up in the 2nd inning, rather the 3rd inning, all tied up at 2.
By now, National League teams are lining up to get a shot at the St. Louis Cardinals, losers of 21 of their last 28 games going into tonight's action. The Redbirds hoping to snap out of it against the visiting Atlanta Braves tonight. Top of the first inning, John Tudor on the mound. His pitch to Omar Moreno is popped to shallow left field. Watch the Wizard. Ozzie Smith going out, pulls it in, no problem. And this looks like a good night for the Redbirds. Still looks good in the bottom of the first for St. Louis. Vince Coleman with a base hit, steals second and third, but Tommy Herr grounds to third, and Coleman is caught in the rundown. Not a real good night for Vince. He's tagged out near third. The Cardinals didn't give up. Bases loaded in the bottom of the first. Terry Pendleton with a drive to right center field. It will bounce and roll for 2 bases off Zane Smith. All 3 runners score. Cards lead at 3-0 after 1. In the top of the second, Bob Horner at first base for Atlanta. Rafael Ramirez with a line drive to left field that Vince Coleman will have to play off the wall.
It isn't.
Horner moves around to third on the play. So runners at second and third for Atlanta. Kenny Oberkfell at the plate. He grounds to Jack Clark at first. He steps on the bag, throws to the plate where Mike Heath drops the ball for an error. 2-run score, 3-2 Cardinals in the second inning. The bottom of the fifth, the Cards used a little sleight of hand. Watch Vince Coleman at first again on the move. Rafael Ramirez tries to tag him, but pretends it goes into the outfield, and then Coleman steps off the bag. And he's tagged out, but the Cardinals hang on to win it by a score of 3-2. Cause for celebration in St. Louis. Only their 8th win in their last 29 games. 2 to the winner. He is 4-3. Zane Smith takes the loss, and Todd Worrell came on for save number 5. Meanwhile, in San Diego, the Pods with a 4-2 lead on the New York Mets in the 6th inning. The Mets started the night with a 4 1/2 game lead on Montreal in the National League East. The Reds and the Pirates, that game is now in the 12th inning. Cincinnati has gained a 12-9 lead on Eddie Milner's 3-run triple in the top of the 12th. The Pirates come to the bottom of the 12th, needing 3 to tie and 4 to win. Philadelphia and Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium. They are in the 6th inning. There is no score in that game. Starting pitchers there were Shane Rawley for the Phillies and Jerry Rice for the Dodgers.